podcast, Odyssey to Utopia, Entrepreneur Journeys. On this show, we interview founders to discover insights about their entrepreneurial journeys and some highlights of their experience. We also explore the challenges they've encountered, how they overcome those challenges, and what challenges they are currently facing. This podcast is sponsored by Utopian Help PBC. As a public benefit corporation, Utopian Help is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs, founders, and their employees overcome the challenges of being a small business and to allow them to thrive personally and professionally. Small business is hard work that can often leave individuals feeling isolated. At Utopian Help, we use our expertise to smooth out the rough spots in the road by providing challenge intervention services at no charge and low-cost managed business service that offload tasks like bookkeeping, technology, cybersecurity, human resources, and document management. You can learn more at https://utopian.help. Today we have a special guest with us. I am pleased to welcome Dr. Jane Harrington to the show. Dr. Jane, can you tell us a little bit about your business and what got you into it?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on the show today. I am always passionate to talk about my work. I love microbes. That's the key point. I love science since I was 8 years old. I was single focused at 16 to become a microbiology professor. And so I've been in the classroom for over 25 years. And that being said, I experienced frustrations as an educator, but more importantly, I witnessed the frustrations of my students of the tools, our standard bullet points, our standard textbooks. There was really a disconnect, especially for this topic that's so abstract. Even whenever you start asking people about what's a vaccine, what's antibiotics, it's so abstract. Words are not effective to really grasp how cool microbes are. So our company, MedMicroMaps, is bringing microbes to life. You're sort of like, ooh, that's gross. Well, what we're using is a range of augmented reality. So that's where, like, we have business cards and you have your phone and you look at the business cards and things pop up out of it. I think it's like a magic trick. So augmented reality is where most of the world is real and then you're seeing something that's imposed on it. We also have what's called virtual reality. So we are building an app for the Oculus Quest. So it's going to be in the Meta Quest store, aiming for April. That's where you put on a headset, and in that position, you are in a true virtual world. So 100% of what you're viewing is actually a microscopic perspective. So you're nanometer size. It's akin to Magic School Bus, and you're going to be battling, you're going to be playing games, but it's really going to be the truly immersive. Something else that's actually becoming much more widely adopted, and we are really anticipating smart glasses. So for our company, MedMicroMaps, we have a suite of products, and we're also designing not just for what the technology is available for today, but for the future learners. So the mixed reality, we're really expecting the smart glasses to have wide adoption in education. So you put on the headset, you put on the glasses, they're way more comfortable. Like I've tried the Meta Ray-Bans. And in that situation, you're in this real world that I can see absolutely my real world, but it's superimposed, so you have giant microbes. So we have a mixed reality aspect of our app, and hopefully I'll see you next week so you can experience it. So we'll be in a coffee shop. You put on right now, we've got the Quest headsets, and there's literally microbes surrounding you that are bigger than you. And that allows really people to experience this imaginary world, this invisible world. I just say imaginary because it takes some imagination, but allows them to experience it in different ways to make these microbes become real in real life.
Cool. So do you guys see a measurable improvement in learning outcomes when you're using your augmented reality?
First, addressing about the complexities of educational research. I've studied education. I study the neuroscience of learning. And so the foundation of the MedMicroMaps system was actually a interactive PowerPoint mind map system. So if you think about, I'm closing my eyes, and you can have, it's called the memory palace, where you're like, oh, there's something right here, and it's purple. There's something right here, and then this is green. Well, what that is doing is it's helping your mind, literally creating neurological pathways. So that is the Master Atlas ebook. So this was created during the pandemic 2020. Educational studies for our pilot. It was a little bit confusing or challenging to say, was this absolutely 100% effective for teaching? Because it was half of our students were virtual, half of our students were in the classroom. However, However, what I was doing was I was tracking engagement. And so that's kind of for when we're talking about any kind of resources for the learning environment, you have to have engagement. And so engagement, are they using it? Is this useful? And that's what, for the MedMicroMaps pilot, we launched it in March of 2022. And so it's an interactive PowerPoint system, and it's 150 pages, 6, it's very massive. And I was actually studying about how frequently the students were using it, so our views on our webpage. And across 3 cohorts of students, class size around 600, we got over 1,000 views per module per month consistently. So the students were absolutely using it. They were coming back, especially 1-2 years afterwards, saying, I need this, I want this for my board studies. For me, as a year 2 educator, it's very difficult for me to track across longitudinally, but that feedback, especially anecdotally, of seeing the students say, I could not have passed my boards without this. So can I say that is it effective for helping students for passing boards? I'm certainly getting anecdotal evidence of it. Engagement, 100%. It was dramatic. We did Likert scale about this. Did this help you? So did this help with your mastery? We had 92% agreement that this system was helpful for them. Regarding our new development, so I don't know. And that's why we're doing studies. So we just recently got approved with it's the IRB, it's the Internal Review Board, so ethics, with Montana State Billings, and we're partnering with Montana State. So we're starting next week for doing our studies. And honestly, it's going to be 3 different measures. For the experience, we're going to ask you questions in pretest. So what is your knowledge of VR? What's your experience? What is your knowledge of these microbes? So for our question set, it's a scale. I have no idea what this is, and there's some rare microbes that they've never heard of. I really know this one really well because I'm a nursing student. And so in that, when they go into the headset and they experience, and so whenever somebody, if they look at something, they touch it for a second, they set it back down, there's no real learning that happens. Where if they interact with something, and this is where we really get sort of the objective measures for cognitive load, is say they interacted with it, they set it down, I give them a challenge. So it's very much mission based. Our first storyline is strep throat. They have to figure it out. So there's little bits and pieces of clues. And so if in their experience, they go back and they interact with this microbe, I'm using this as a proxy for a virus or a bacteria, like they're pretty big, they can be small, and then they have to use it to get to the next level, they learned. And so that's another way that we can assess the interaction. And then we do post-tests. And so in the Qualtrics survey, how was your experience with the virtual reality? Is it better? Did you get a positive experience? And that is something to do with the technology. And then also it's rating about what did you learn about these microbes. So we'll be doing these studies not just with nursing students at Montana State, but we're also traveling to Florida to Ringling College of Art and Design. And we're also demoing our app. We're doing our studies with non-science. The app is for the general audience. And so somebody who knows nothing about microbiology, in this 15-minute gameplay, did they actually learn about these microbes? So let me come back to this. Let me go back to this question. We're aiming to do this study with roughly about 100 participants of different perspectives, different experiences with VR, as well as different science.
Excellent. So what do you believe about your preparation, your experience, your qualifications that made you ready to found your business?
Off the cuff answer is passion. I love teaching, and I always told my students 2 things when I start a lecture, a course, a class. One of them is that I will do anything to help you. And so in the tools that I want to really show how cool microbes are, they don't exist. And so having that gap, having that vacuum, that passion for my desire to share with the world, this cool world that I know, that has been my number one driver to get away from academia and say the tools that I have available is inefficient, so we need to create other tools. The second one is I tell my students, I'm not teaching you for the test. I am teaching you to be my daughter's doctor or nurse. So I work with healthcare providers. And so that really kind of a passion for the future generations, that's another thing that I'm really passionate about. And, multiple choice questions, honestly, ChatGPT can ace it. ChatGPT understands infectious disease for somebody who's got a complex immunodeficiency? No, certainly not. And so that's another a really big passion that our world, our learners are different now, and they're going to be dramatically different in another 10, 20 years for my grandchildren. And so those two really major foundations is my love of teaching and wanting to do better for my students, but also my care for my kid and her generation.
So why now? What was the trigger that said now is the right time to kick off this journey versus, a year from now or a year earlier?
I'll give a precursor that I was living in the Caribbean for 12 years. It was awesome. I was a medical school professor, and status quo was great. And like I can go in there, I can imagine it's the same thing taught over and over again. So I've taught about 7,000 students, and micro is micro, and what we teach aside from it doesn't change that much. Well, of course, March of 2020. For the record, I knew it was coming in January. We knew it was happening. So in that experience, especially with the range of e-learning tools, so electronic, whenever we were strict virtual, that was not working for everyone. Strict in class is not working for everyone. And so in the pandemic, during that time period, the explosion of the technologies. So that's one aspect that, I was developing the MedMicroMaps system. I started planning for applying for the National Science Foundation SBIR 2 years before I applied for it. And so I started researching so that I was ready. And I also like to point out my advice to entrepreneurs. I did not study the phase 1 awardees. I studied the phase 2 awardees that had become successful businesses. That was really important. And so I did a lot of prep work. I did a lot of research for me to position myself. But it's also, the need. The pandemic says, wait a minute, we need to find something that is a blend of in-person, a blend of using technology, but also the tools, the Quest 3. Whenever we're talking about people, we write around billings, we bring our headsets around, and consistently the response is, I get motion sick. That's true. I was in the Rift in 2019. I would get motion sick. I can only spend about 15 minutes in it. That's our virtual reality world. The technology, the hardware wasn't there. The Quest 3 has the mixed reality. So the mixed reality, it's better for your eyes. You don't get dizzy. You don't run into things. The clarity of it is really, so the hardware, the Quest 3 was a major leap in the comfortability, a better adoption. And then of course is the AI, the surge in the AI tools. We use AI every day. We're novice coders, we're novice developers. And so if we had started this journey in 2019, when I got a first VR headset, even the development of our assets, our 3D assets, the interactions, it's very, very slow. And that's something people who got into the VR world back in 2018, there was this big hype for it. It wasn't there yet. It wasn't, the technology wasn't there. It was uncomfortable. It was heavy. It was very much, you were guaranteed to get motion sick. And absolutely for the development aspect, we didn't have this amazing, really accessible generative AI, which has been leaps and bounds, making our productivity a lot faster. So I would say it's a combination of my experiences in the education, being frustrated with the pandemic, to taking 2 years to research. So I don't say I just jumped into it, and then hardware and the software, where everything's kind of come together for us.
Perfect. Well, it's the right time, it seems. Gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your challenges and your journey to date. So looking back, what do you see as the biggest challenge you've faced in your business?
I won't say the word insurmountable. I'm not at that point yet. The shifts from being an academic. So I've been a professor, I've been a student, I've been a professor for my entire time. And that world is it's much slower. It's much rigorous. For anything to get accomplished, you have to go through, I'm going to say 10 checks. Even doing educational research, I have to start, getting my signatures, so many signatures. Data sets, proof. It's really much more entrenched in status quo for academia. In that, by the time that I'm an associate professor, I could do learning objectives. It became very much, I don't want to say I was bored, but that might be it. However, shifting to the existence essence of an entrepreneur. It was like I was a freshman in college. The language, CTO, CFO, COO, CIO. Thankfully, whenever we got the SBIR award, we also got accepted to the NSF, the I-Corps. So it's a really intensive 7-week program. And pretty much everyone there had already experience with the business model canvas, with customer acquisition costs. It was a new language. And that humility of being, a seasoned professor and completely new. And I'm like raising my hand. I'm like, what is that? What is that? So I would say just a kind of personal challenge is the shift of completely new fields. And that's true of anyone. If you're going from, your position, you're an expert, to that leap of you're a novice, you don't know the vocabulary, you're not following what they're talking about. The business mentality, there are often times in our classes for the I-Corps that I'm messaging with my friend who she's been in the startup world for a long time. I'm like, what is he talking about? She would have to give me examples to make it relate. So that's an uncomfortable, that's not insurmountable. The challenges of the apps, the programs, the subscriptions, everyone's trying to offer you something, even project management. I think we went through 5 different apps before we got one that's for our team. And so in some ways, I would say that the vocabulary, even the tools that are available, there's almost too many. That's what there was certainly we'd sign up for this website server, and we'd sign up for another one. And then suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, I just spent $100 trying out these different subscriptions and then making that decision fast. That's what in academia, if you're trying a different program, you're going to try it out. You're going to pilot it. You're going to get feedback from the faculty, from the chair of your department, from the IT, from the administrators before any decisions made. Where in entrepreneurship, it doesn't work like that. You have to assess massive amounts of information. If you don't know what something is, if you don't know the vocabulary, you got to get on it immediately. And you have to make that decision for your team because they're waiting for you that same day. So that is something I wouldn't say is not insurmountable, but it's a daily challenge of, oh my gosh, slow down.
Well, definitely is a culture shock going from experienced academic to entrepreneur. Reality is I think every entrepreneur experiences some of that shock, so you're not alone. So kind of rotating the question a little bit, which challenge have you experienced that's giving you the most stress or anxiety? The one you wake up in the middle of the night pondering, or it's interrupting your sleep? Do you have any challenges like that you can share?
We'll be frank, the recent environment with banned words, that's, I can do it. So I'm very much committed to education for all. I love accessibility. I've been going into schools. I've been teaching K through 12. I will talk to somebody sitting on the bus. Anybody about I've seen antibiotics, microbes. I love getting a little pen and paper out. I love drawing little stick figures. And so that is really a core of really saying how can we take the science and make it accessible to everyone, because I think everyone should know about viruses. They affect all of us. And so in that we are right now writing phase 2 proposal, which is great. And so having to go through that process and really being careful about words. That's something I would say of all the things that I've experienced is my number one, because I speak so passionately and I talk very genuine. I'm a very honest, genuine person, what have you. Diversity. And so to suddenly be in a situation that I have to watch which words I say, that has become a little bit, actually a lot more stressful, in that a lot of what I go for is especially women entrepreneurship. And so going into this world and knowing the fact, which I will state over and over again, that women-owned companies get less than 2% of venture capital funds. Sit with that one. 1 in 10 startups fail. okay, these are some pretty horrible odds. So for me, I really study, connect, learn, reach out to women who are very successful entrepreneurs, very successful CEOs, doing wonderful world in the XR world and education and health, because we're overreaching, applying for grants because of being a woman. I mean, that is to me is so important to have that opportunity. And so in that, like, I can't use the word woman entrepreneur. What? So I can laugh about it, but it's really it's a big shift in saying, like, wait a minute, this is such a huge identity for me. I am a woman CEO. This is a woman-owned business, and be like, wait a minute, do I have to hide that now? I'm trying to think of other major things of like what keeps me up at night. And what I think it kind of comes down to is going about this, that I'm my true self and I have a mission. I mean, this is a passion project, and to speak genuinely is been my MO. It's like who I am. And to really suddenly be like, oh, wait a minute, you have to talk on a script, you have to fit a mold, you have to adjust, you have to, and I know, and I'll do it. I will certainly adjust to what is needed at that time.
Do you have any tricks or techniques that you've used to help school you to overcome that challenge?
Practice. I love connecting and talking with people. I love learning. That's been an amazing, really important journey of going from a medical school professor. And I told you this when we met. I'm like, Dr. Harrington is like a character that I am an expert, and I talk 100% about microbes, and I'm 100% talking. Like that's, especially whenever I was on the islands, that, I mean, I'd go to the grocery store and they're like, Dr. Harrington, can I show you my rash? We did ICOR, and that was really foundational for my just perspective experience. And in that, getting out of the little niche biomedical educational school, like this very, very tiny little world, and not only talking to people, listening, that is wonderful. And so that's actually, for me, I have a tendency of like, I'm like, like, no, wait, say something, wait, listen to people. And so that's what I would say, what is a tip, a trick for me, is to say what I'm trying to say, talk to somebody, ask questions, see what their reaction is, listen to their feedback, and then adjust what your message is. And that's been so incredibly important for my growth and advocacy for leading this team, is that I'm not making this for me. I'm making this for learners. And so I need to listen, and I need to work with what my message is so that I'm more clear for that listener. I'm more clear for people who aren't in science. And so in those experiences of connecting with you, connecting with non-medical science people, that has just improved my clarity, improved my, stop talking so much. Stop using so many technical words. It's not getting you anywhere. That's been a very much growing experience for me of listening.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing. I call the next section our do-over challenge. So missteps happen in business and life, and they always say that hindsight is 20. So knowing what you know now, what challenge would you approach and solve differently if you could do it over again?
I've got a really good story for you on this one. Okay, starting out as a new entrepreneur, there's certain search terms, and you get certain search terms and you get a whole bunch of cold calls, you get a lot of emails, you get a lot of messages, you get a lot. And I fell for a scam. I did. Actually really complicated, very interesting. And I actually I need to follow up with this one and file the report. So part of getting your business out is coverage, is social media, is getting your name out there. And if somebody's coming at you and they're like, oh, I'm going to promote you, I'm going to do all this stuff for you, and I'm going to do it for free, or I'm going to do it really cheap. And that, like that old tenet of, if it's too good to be true, that kind of got So we started out during the summertime, and I'm like, I'm just connecting with anybody and everybody who will answer my calls. Anybody, I'm like wanting to learn. I'm like, how do you do this? And so we did. I won't go too much into that story. We absolutely was like hooking me like, oh, we're gonna promote you. We're gonna do a free. We're gonna do a free promo for you. And I was like, okay, sounds great. Sounds enthusiastic. And then it was like, not shortly afterwards, they're like, oh, you owe us a lot of money. And we're like, wait, what? Like, no. This is, wait a minute. We know we have a really great product. We know that we have something that's very valuable. It's got a global market. It's got huge implications for all the way through 12 to postgraduate. So that was one time, and it was fortunately my husband and I. So my husband, Ian Holyoke, is our chief technical officer. He's my partner, and he's much more grounded than I am. I'm like, someone that's not there in Florida. I'm very idealistic. I'm honest about it. I have fallen for those little like phone scams. I admit it. So that being said, during the fall, we are developing, and my husband, there's this one particular musician, Tim Henson. Tim Henson is a guitar prodigy. He is. And so my husband's like, I want Tim Henson to do our music. And so he was like reaching out on social media. He's got a lot of people who are in the music field. And so he did a lot of connections, and there was a lot of work went into this. And so his manager contacted us. And so we're like, great, this is awesome. We do a whole bunch of negotiation for them doing a 1-minute music bit that we're going to use for our trailer. And this went on for months. We're talking about very elaborate, see where this is going? We got music. We got actually a sound clip from it. And we were like, we're going back and forth. And it was, and then they were demanding. And it got to a point where like, okay, we're going for our phase 2. We're doing great in phase 1. We are considering, going for potentially pitching for funds. We're doing everything by the book. We're applying for a patent, which is amazing. We're applying for trademark, which is amazing. We're getting ready for our advertising, our trailer. We're at this point where we're negotiating with the manager, negotiating with Tim Henson for doing this recording. So we brought in a lawyer. Probably should have done from the beginning, but tight budget. What do you do? And so we had a contract. With them. And we reached out for our lawyers, now our general counsel, and we kind of talked about the exchange, and we're like, we want to set the terms so that when we do our trailer that's coming out, any day now, that we have the royalties, that we have it, so that this is ownership. Well, guess what? We got that is not Tim Henson. That is not manager. So thank goodness, and I say this now, but thank goodness that we did not put out and advertise that this was Tim Henson's music. So we actually need to contact his manager, contact him and say, hey, there's somebody posing with this really elaborate, months. So much communication that went on with this. So if I could have done it over again, start with the lawyer.
Excellent. So are there any particular red flags or indicators to help other entrepreneurs avoid the mistake, maybe before they spend months talking to the wrong manager?
When somebody is offering something that is too good to be true, somebody is offering something that's too good to be true, that's the quality of the people that we are collaborating with now. They are worth the money that we are negotiating. A word of mouth is critical. I have a fantastic network of XR Women, IVRHA, International Virtual Reality Health Association, the National Science Foundation, SBIR. So I now have a group of people who can refer, who can say, I've worked with this person. And so that now becomes, I did not have any network. I did not have any network starting off. So I was an easy target in some regards. But now anyone, I would say, I look you up. I look at like who you do, who you're connected with, what's your reputation, what are the referrals, and so I would say that somebody who is new in that, reach out to your local Chamber of Commerce, reach out to your local Apex group. So we've got the Big Sky Economic Development. So if you are new and you don't have those social networks that I've now cultivated, do not get into a business relationship unless you have evidence that they're somebody who's going to help with your team.
Excellent advice. So let's shift gears looking ahead a little bit. What do you see as your current challenges that you're really focusing on overcoming over the next 6 months?
Well, in the short term, we're getting our website ready. We're developing a trailer with the music we can use, and so in some ways, it's the guess of who's going to be the best market to spend that energy. And so, especially our suite of products, our tagline is K-12 to MD. And so we have got the Atlas ebook, which is appropriate for clinical, preclinical, nursing, and medical students. We have the spatial world, and so that's all ages. It's going to be really great for high school programs, biology. There's a lot of interest in virtual reality for like after school programs, summer camps. I've been doing K through 12 for a long time, so I love that. The actual mixed reality, that is dependent on people having the Quest headset. And so in that experience, am I forming it as, or this is going to help you out with your micro class, or hey, this is a fun experience. And I'm actually joining a lot of social groups, and there's a lot of interest in people who are older, just have fun in the headsets. And so for me, in making the decision about where to put your baskets, so especially because we have got such great potential to different markets, where should I be concentrating on? That's something that is really, in the case of academia, I'm like, I just make one guess, and if I make a mistake, then I just change it the next semester. But in this situation, funds are limited, resources are limited, social media is challenging. So say we start paying for our ads on social media, which is going to be the most effective for me? So it's a golden question. I mean, that's true of anyone who's got a business, is the marketing aspect of it. And so that really relies on us to get out of the building for iCore, is to start talking with people. And so we're going to be doing organic social media platforming. So, getting out there and be like, well, tracking who is actually signing up. Who is the most interested in us? It might be that it's the high school teachers who are interested. It might be the after school groups. And so that is something I love, the data aspect, the data analytics. That's something I'm really excited about getting into. So I've got iMetrical to track all my apps. I've got Wix to track all my engagement. I've got all the Google Analytics. So that's going to be fun, but it's also intimidating because it's a new field for me. But where I have so many roads to take right now, which is the most effective for me so that we can get the best traction? That is, if anyone's got any advice, I'd love to hear it.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing on the details on your challenge and even the details on how you propose to overcome it. And we'll give an opportunity for you to put your contact information so that if there is someone watching, they can kick back some ideas for you.
Yeah, for some good resources. I get an email, or because we're SBIR, we're on their website. I get an email or notification almost daily, like, I can help your marketing. I can help you market it. And I'm like, you went on a shoestring budget? So there's that.
Fair enough. Well, as we wrap up, thank you again for joining us today, Dr. Jane. And we look forward to having you on the show with the completion of your phase 2 here in 6 months to a year, and you can give us an update on your progress.
Yeah, I will. Closing comments. I love what I'm doing. I love being a CEO. I love entrepreneur. It's challenging. It's nonstop. It's definitely, there's a lot of lighting that goes on in my house. But if you have a passion, if you have a solution to a problem that plagues you, do it. I really, for all my challenges, nothing is insurmountable. I really love, I just also want to plug Steve Blank. How to Build a Startup is his book. He's got, Steve Blank is really changed the way that the sort of the startup model, the business model canvas, a really great course that was free on Udacity. It was just wonderful, and he explains things well in an academic sense. And so that, I just want to give that advice to everybody. Anybody who's asked, how do I start? Steve Blank is the go-to. Great resources on his website. And that's where I went I was so uncomfortable. I didn't know what people were talking about. I got his book. It's also available in your local library, or at least we have it in Billings. And that gave me the foundational tools, foundational vocabulary, and then the mental framework about how does this work actually. And having those tools, especially if I had challenges, I go back to that book and say, okay, let me reread this. marketing, thinking about who my customer, what's the target. I can go back to there and be like, okay, I now have some information, I have evidence, let's revisit this so that I feel like I have the tools to do well.
All right, Dr. Jane, thank you again. If anyone has any further questions or comments, are they free to reach out to you?
Yes, please do.
So what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
If you Google MedMicroMaps, so at MedMicroMaps, we are every social media, our webpage. So med as in medical, micro as in microscopic, and maps. So MEDMICROMAPS, MedMicroMaps. That's the best way. And so if you go to our website, my email is on there. If you type in MicroMaps SBIR, my email is on there. And we now have social media. I'm on LinkedIn the most. And so if you want to get a hold of me and get a response quickly, I'm on LinkedIn the most. Ladder LinkedIn.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for joining us, Dr. Jane. We'd like to thank again our sponsor, Utopian Help, for sponsoring this podcast. And Utopian Help, our business is making your business easier. You can find us online at utopianhelp.com. We'll see you next time.